Ramana, who is the Executive Vice President, Head of Branded Business at DRL or Dr.Reddy's. Mr. Ramana, thank you very much for joining us on VQ Prime. To begin with, sir, give us a sense of how the US business has been this quarter.
So as you would see from the results, we have got a good quarter thanks to the new product launches. As you know that we had a volume limited settlement and that's what you see in terms of the performance in the US for the current quarter.
Sir, can you take us through this volume limited settlement? How does it work for you? Is it a gradual increase in volumes over a period of till the time the drug goes off patent, or is this constant volume every year which you have to deliver?
I won't be able to give you as many details, but we do have a volume limited settlement till the time we go into 2026.
So, is it my question is that are we going to see an incremental revenue every year from this kind of agreement?
I would probably put it this way that we would have the performance going into the next couple of quarters as well.
Okay. So is it going to be at similar levels, or is there going to be a fluctuation? Because I think we've done a lot of good business this quarter. And is it only because of the Revlimid launch, or is it also because of the other products that we have launched?
So we have had several products that we have launched along with lenalidomide as well. And not only if you take at a company level, it has not just been a lenalidomide launch alone. We've also seen the Russia sales coming back. If you would remember, because of the stocking in Q4 of last year, the sales in Q1 this year was muted. But if you see sequentially, we have grown 85% compared to Q1 of last year. So Russia has also come back and contributed to the overall performance.
So, sir, I want to understand a little bit more on the US business. In the last quarter, when we had the conversation, we spoke about there still being price erosion that we are facing. So, has there been any easing out on that side as well? Or is it just because of the new launches?
So, in terms of the pricing erosion, I think it continues to be normal as to what it was. So, that's something that we are able to do. In spite of that, I think the new product launches that we have done has also contributed meaningfully for the quarter.
Okay. So going forward, how do you look at the US business? Because that, I believe, this time was 48% higher. Is the growth going to be at similar levels, or will we see some normalization and India growth might come back? Because I think India growth was relatively muted as against the past conversations that we've had.
Sure. So if you take in the US, the way I think we had all spoken earlier as well. So there is a growth that we're expecting in the US, which is going to be in terms of single digits. And we do have a set of, I would say, products that matter that would come from time to time. And that is when you would see a good trajectory in terms of the growth. But otherwise, US is a focus market for us, and we have several products that are lined up in terms of launches. Coming to India, if I remove the COVID sales, we have a double-digit growth. So COVID sales has been muted not only for us but for the market. But in terms of the levers of growth for India, which has been productivity, which has been big brands, which has been business development, both in terms of licensing and acquisition, licensing in of Novartis as well as Sidmus has gone very well. So we continue to focus over there, and India continues also to be the focus market for us for Horizon 2. In terms of how we look into end-to-end disease management in the identified therapeutic areas, in the identified diseases, and how could we deliver better outcomes to the patients.
So where are we now planning to make investments? What are the segments that we're looking at?
So if you take from a point of India, there are certain therapeutic areas in which we do have a preeminent position. We are either within the top 5 or top 10. So those are the areas where we want to understand the patient journey, understand what is the unmet needs, and where could we find the white spaces to make a difference for the patients. So this is where we will continue to do. For example, as you know, we are developing CAR-T for lymphoma, for BCMA. We are developing nutrition products, whether it is in the area of oncology, whether it is in the area of hepatology, nephrology, diabetes. So we are making investments. Some of them are adjacent to our existing business, but pretty much we are looking at how to make a difference to the patient in those identified diseases.
So there is also some investment towards biosimilars and injectables. Could you just elaborate on how this is going to function?
Sure. So as far as biosimilars is concerned, the good part about that is we now are developing the product with a single trial, a trial that would help us to take us into multiple markets. And this obviously would get us, because if you take our current footprint, we have our own field forces and our own offices and operations in about 35 emerging markets, along with India, then several markets in Europe, and with the US, which has always been a traditional stronghold. We do have a good representation, and there is increasing, I would say, support for the biosimilars by various drug authorities. And we feel that this is a good investment that we are making. And obviously, beyond rituximab, every product that we want to bring into the respective market, we want to be among the first few to launch in that market.
So when can we expect the launches then?
So if you see today, we do have a rituximab clinical trial that is completing, and we do expect that Q1 of FY'24 that we would start to file in the dossier, and then as and when we get the approval, rituximab would be the first biosimilar launch in the US and European markets, while we have launched rituximab in many of the emerging markets. Having said that, while we're getting the next set of global portfolio, we do have bevacizumab, we have trastuzumab, we have darbepoetin, we have pegfilgrastim, and these products we're today taking into a large number of emerging markets. We've got approval for bevacizumab in Russia. We have got approval in several other markets. So we will have a set of products that we are able to get them into the emerging markets over the next 2 to 3 years, while the global products are expected to be ramped up from 2025.
Mr. Ramana, you spoke about that sales from Russia were back in this quarter. Have they reached the same scale and level pre-Russia-Ukraine war, or is still some level, still some way to go to reach that level?
And we have got back to where we were.
And how has it been the trade? Are we facing issues with respect to trade and receivables from Russia, or is it a smooth process which you see?
It's a smooth process. Of course, we were in the initial stages finding the various routes to try and ensure availability of the products, whether it was Russia or whether it was Ukraine. We've been able to establish several routes to ensure availability of the products, but we don't see any difficulty in terms of the trade.
We saw margins improving in this quarter. Do you see, as we go into Q3 and Q4, there's further room for the margin growth coming in?
So if you see the way in which I would put the margins of this quarter, it is also because of the new product launches and also taking into effect some of the price erosions in the generic market. So as I said, I do expect that some of the new product launches to continue to support us in the next couple of quarters. But at a company level, we had shared with the investors of being consistent with an expectation of 25% ROC and 25% EBITDA. So we continue to work on that across all of the markets.
So it is safe to assume that 30% will not be sustainable. Is there any reason why we can't live up to the 30% levels?
So I think what we had also committed is that we would need to continue to make the investments. So we need to, whether it is investments into R&D or the investments into Horizon 2, in order to ensure that we have sustainable growth across the markets. So our guidance has been that while we will continue, and there are several, we are a diversified business, we have several growth levers, and while continue to grow in all of the identified spaces, This is about the consistency. You could have, where we would get benefit of certain growth levers working better for us. But what I'm looking at is a much more long-term perspective. That is the focus for us as an organization.
So I'd like to understand on the investments that going into injectables. Are we doing it for third parties, or is it also for internal consumption? And how is it going to play out in the future?
Sure. So injectables, I would say, is the common denominator across most of the countries, whether it is India, US, Europe, as well as emerging markets. So we have been able to leverage this, and it is becoming a meaningful contributor to each of the geographies. So started off with onco injectables, then we have antifungals, anti-infectives. So what we are constantly doing is, now that we have a good market share across most of the markets, what is the next set of portfolio that is relevant to the patient, and where should we be doing the investment? But the investment is pretty much in sync with the quality of the portfolio going.
So do we have some number of how much contribution do we have from injectables already?
So at this point of time, injectables contribute, if you take some of our leading businesses, anywhere between 12 to 15% of sales.
Okay.
Mr. Ramana, it's been a pleasure talking to you today on the eve of the second quarter earnings. We hope to see you next quarter as well. Thank you very much for joining us on BQ Prime.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.